Input session for the Downtown Visioning Project Phase 2. Tonight's topic is the interconnection between Hedda Falls and downtown. Steve, you want to get us started?
Happily. We all pretty much know that there's been a desire to use the parking lot at the Hedda Falls as an overflow parking area for downtown. And in the past 2-3 years, I believe there's been an arrangement made with Colby for their students to park there instead of parking in the concourse. To a certain extent, that's been successful, but not completely. And there's a new, 2 years ago, I think, no parking ordinance during snow weather, during the snow season, and the alternative for parking in the concourse is the Hedda Falls parking lot. We've talked a lot about the Hedda Falls and the Riverwalk and the 2 Cent Bridge being significant recreational locations for the city. And now we have to talk about how we get people moving between downtown, the parking area at Hedda Falls, and back and forth in a way that energizes both locations, both Main Street, so the Silver Street area, and the Hedda Falls area. So tonight's meeting is to seek input on people's ideas about how we might do that. Also, people's thoughts and observations on what the issues might be in moving pedestrians back and forth.
Councilors? I'll open it to the, Councilor Klepak.
Clearly, one of the major issues here is the train tracks, right? I mean, that's a big physical boundary that separates Hedda Falls from the rest of the downtown corridor, and I think, you know, that track is not used heavily, but that's something that needs to, the future of that rail line is something that I think needs to be part of the conversation.
A little bit of input.
I have other thoughts. I have other thoughts about Hedda Falls as well. You know, a number of you have heard me express my desire to have a sort of connectivity throughout Waterville between our green spaces, and the city has 2 really beautiful holdings right on the waterfront that are pretty adjacent to one another, one being Hedda Falls, the other being the Hathaway Park. I actually am not sure what the name of that park is on that alluvial island that's just south of the Hathaway complex. But it is a lovely piece of property down there and has significant recreational potential. And I personally have always hoped for some way of connecting those 2 assets. And what has occurred to me in the past would be some way of having people utilize the waterfront and also have it be a conduit for pedestrians somehow to travel between those two locations on the shore. I don't want to get too deep.
Yeah, I just want to take the moment to jump in and say, not to forget the boat landing in the south end. And there is a plan, and this is beyond downtown per se, but there are also plans for a trails connecting downtown with the boat landing, and then potentially a new park at the end of town. So I just wanted to point that out, and also, yes, I think we need to be thinking about these sorts of assets for sure. So thank you.
I personally, I would like the city to think about a cohesive recreational corridor along the length of its waterfront.
Steve?
I wanted to add, in respect to the railroad tracks, that Pan Am has been acquired by CSX, one of the major rail companies in the country, in North America. And that may leave an opening for us to begin some form of dialogue with them, which has not been possible with Pan Am.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's good news to me. I've been interested in the train trestle on North Street, and we were kind of waiting for that transaction to be completed to get some forward motion on that.
Anyone else from the council? All right, I'm going to open it to public. Go ahead, Ken.
So, haven't been here before, so I was just sitting here.
Nope, that one right there.
Oh, I see it now. Okay.
You want to sit here, you got to be elected in November.
Ken Blodick, born in Waterville, 1951. Owner of the Yard Goods Center in the Concourse. I've worked full-time downtown since 1974. I've been on every business group that there has ever been since 1974. Worked on everything. My dad worked with Mr. Mitchell on urban renewal, so we've got a lot of history here. The history I can give you on Head of Falls, which has sort of become a Colby dormitory parking lot right now, is that area was always used for employee parking. The concourse was dedicated for our customers, and employees were always encouraged to park down there. That's an impossibility now because the parking lot is full all day. For the distance between Head of Falls and coming onto Main Street and the concourse, that's always been very easy. It's a very short walk. So I don't think that's ever going to be a problem. The problem I foresee is the usability of that space. With the new building, which I can't remember the name of it, that was the Stearns building coming online in December, the employees have already been told to park in the concourse because there is no parking for them at Head of Falls, which is where they normally would be parking. I've got a real concern when that building opens with the fact that we, first of all, lost a considerable amount of parking in the concourse when the dorm was built. We've now lost a considerable amount of parking with going to two-way traffic. With that building opening, that's going to be a real major problem for the patrons of that building to find parking spaces during the day. If Railroad Square, I'm guessing, is going to be having matinees there, I don't know where they're going to park. That's almost a guarantee that those patrons are going to get a 2-hour parking ticket. It's going to be, a real problem there. The parking downtown was never a problem before Colby opened that building. There was a promise during the pre-construction meetings that no students would ever park downtown. 2 shuttles would move them to Mary Lou and one other thing up there. Until we can get back to that promise to get all of the students out of downtown, this is just going to keep getting worse and worse and worse. The one thing that I have noticed this year, thankful for my business, is parking in the concourse in front of our business is considerably better. And for the first time, it looks like Colby Security is actually coming down and taking license plates. So that sure is helping. And Chief Massey is doing a much better job in enforcing the midnight to 6 a.m. When I'm there early in the morning, there are quite a few tickets on cars. And the students seem to be getting the hang of it, and there's less and less as time goes on. But moving them down to the concourse, or down to Head of Falls, where we want to use Head of Falls for recreation, hopefully for employee parking, it's a real problem. Something has got to be done. I'm not sure what it is, but it just can't keep going in this direction.
Anyone else?
I'm small. Hi. Diane Weinstein, Ward 6. And Tom Klepek, I wanted to say, you really might want to talk with Nancy Williams from the Waterville Community Land Trust, and of course Peter Garrett with the Kennebec-Messalonsky, they're not a land trust, but the trails, because there has been discussion about how to get the city involved in advocating to get money from the state and possibly federal for a beautiful trail from Lockwood all the way to the boat landing, beyond the boat landing and beyond the sewer treatment plant to the confluence of the Messalonsky and Kennebec, and to build a park there. You can use TIF money. I see Peter Garrett's here now, and there's disappointment that that's slowing down, but there is a lot of excitement to do that. That would be a beautiful way to revitalize the south end and link all of the waterfront. But that's an aside. I wanted to also talk on tonight's topic about linkage. I would like to propose a multi-story, multi-use building to be constructed adjacent to the Opera House along Front Street and all the way to Temple Street. I think that's where the old Social Security building is. I know there's a commercial space there now, but I think that this would be a structure that could have commercial space, a room large enough for city chambers since it would be connected to City Hall, a sheltered parking that easily allows entrance into City Hall, the Opera House, and the Shoof Center. And I would also like to see a pedestrian covered walkway that crosses Front Street and the railroad to the Head of Falls recreation area. I've lived in places like Cincinnati, and I visited places, I believe, like Minneapolis, where they have beautiful pedestrian walkways, and I think they're very helpful. I would also like to propose a pedestrian walkway over Main Street that facilitates persons using the concourse and linkage to commercial entities on Main Street, the Opera House and the Shoof Center. And I keep hearing people wanting to close Appleton Street to create parking for the library, and I am someone who would strongly discourage closing the street because it's now a major thoroughfare for persons on the west side of town who want access to the downtown area or others wanting to get to this side of town. If you want to get from Pleasant Street, the college, Ridgeway, all of those, you're going to be crossing over to Park Street to Appleton Street to get to and from downtown. I know people have talked about that street didn't exist in 1965, but we have a lot of other alterations that have taken place that we're not proposing restoration. I would like to recommend that the city have discussions with the owners of the parking lot next to the library and discuss whether the city could purchase some of those parking spaces from the organization that now has that building on Main Street. And I think that might be another place also for sheltered parking over there, which would perhaps even be something that Colby might be interested in for its students, or the library, or if Colby students can still park downtown. Already there are a hodgepodge of streets in the concourse with obstructions on them, making it difficult to access buildings surrounding the concourse and for vehicles wanting to enter or exit Main Street. For example, Merchants Way is now blocked for restaurant outdoor seating. Silver Street has also been closed for outdoor seating, and the passageway in the middle of the concourse is rather circuitous and only for vehicles. Downtown passageways need to be linked in a coordinated fashion for pedestrians and vehicles instead of closing them all to vehicles. I know some people want to make this a vehicle-free community. I've lived in some communities that have done that, and they've completely derailed their commercial enterprises downtown. Middletown, Ohio is one that did that. A final comment. While living in Waterville now for 12 years on the west side of town, I admit I still remain confused how to easily get to the post office on College Street. It took me years to figure out how to get to College Street, the Social Security building, and the Mid-Main homeless shelter, which we really have put on the other side of the railroad tracks. And if I'm at the post office and want to make a left turn to get back home, I have to circumvent 4 lanes of traffic. So the other day I thought, oh, I'm going to make a right turn. I see this new paving. I see this new traffic circle. I'm so thrilled. I get up to the traffic circle to try to make a left turn to go around it as if it's a real circle, and I couldn't do that. So I was even more confused how to get back to the west end of town. I think this seems to be a potential malfunction junction. But otherwise, I do love Waterville.
It's a malfunction for sure. Why we went around Dunkin' Donuts and Burger King like that doesn't really make a lot of sense to me, and why they couldn't just share one driveway. I talked to the owner of the Dunkin' Donuts actually today, and he'd love for his people to be able to come out and make a right-hand turn to go back down, and they can't. Can't do it. It doesn't make sense why you can't do it. Like, you should be coming out of that, instead of taking that big bend, you should be coming out of the drive-through and taking a right and going. They blame the Burger King. They're the ones that own the road. So since Burger King doesn't want to play, we can't do anything over there. That's why we have a hideous entrance to the two. Can we fix that?
We've been trying. Obviously, we haven't been successful yet.
If you own Burger King, call City Hall. We can figure this out together. Anyone else? Oh, Anna and then Mr. Craig.
Hannah Holdener, Ward 7. So I've missed the last couple of meetings. I know that there's been a lot of talk about parking garages. Has anyone talked about, and I don't know about constructing parking garages. I'm going to throw that out there. But there's two sides of the parking down at Hedda Falls. One side is where the farmers market currently meets in the spring and the summer, and the other side is the one that extends all the way down. What about a parking garage in that smaller parking, and I don't know if this is feasible, but in that smaller parking lot, because then you have folks coming from downtown to park at the Hedda Falls. You have more options. You have more options for if there is snow, as well as, it's not really blocking any views because it's all foliage over on that side that, nobody really stops to look at. Oh, look at all the trees blocking the river. I mean, that's not a thing. So, but it's worth an idea.
Thank you, Anna.
That's it.
I just had a follow-up to his question.
You got to do it up there so everyone can hear you. It's a long walk, Mr. Craig. It's a long walk.
Not bad. Steve Crate, Ward 5. A follow-up to the Burger King. Do we have to ask them, or can't we tell them as a part of public safety that they must do it? I mean, asking them, that sort of surprises me that you would ask them. When I was on the safety council for 10 years, and when we had a dangerous place, we could get eminent domain and we could do what we want. So are we not running government anymore, or do we let the private sector sort of do what they want? And I say that with all due respect, because I'm curious. I was surprised by that answer. So.
Well, it is private property.
Yes. But we're trying to do public things, and maybe we need to buy the private property, but we can't, there's nothing we can do legally if private property is getting in the way of our planning.
Go ahead, Steve.
We're on the course to doing that. We just haven't gotten there yet.
Okay.
We have to touch all the appropriate bases before we make that move.
Okay.
We got to dot the i's and cross the t's, Steve.
Okay, good, thank you.
Just so we're clear, I'm not in favor of just taking people's property. Just so we're clear. Anyone else? Nancy? And boom, boom, boom.
Hi, Cindy Jacobs, Ward 4. I thought this was going to be a discussion about connectivity between Main Street, Front Street, and Hedda Falls. And I was going to encourage us to try to make sure Appleton Street is a two-way street, and it goes right across Front Street, and it lands at the train trestle, which we all know is difficult. But I've noticed in other communities, I believe as close as Gardner, that they have figured out how to make a pedestrian walkway underneath that. And, it needs to be obviously well lighted. I think we could do a lot more on Temple Street with, bright lighting and marking pedestrian safety issues, because it is a railroad track. But I do think you can use both of those streets to get to the Head of Falls area. It just needs to be planned and done. And I know there are lots of lovely trees there, but I'm sure we can work around them. But it just would, I think it would make a lot more, it would move everybody around a little better. So, thanks.
Mayor, you can come up. And then I've got you.
Karen Heck, Ward 6. I wasn't going to say this about the TIF, but since Diane brought it up, I'm wondering if anything did happen around 165 Main Street, because if there is TIF money that's being allocated and isn't going to be used, is that available to spend on the kinds of things that we want to do for connectivity?
So that TIF is directly around the perimeter of that building. It was removed from the downtown TIF when it was created. But no actual substantive work has been done there, so their property taxes haven't gone up. There's no TIF payments going to them at this point. It's exactly how it was before the TIF started.
Right, but is there any, there's nothing in reserve then? That's
No.
not reserved?
Because it hasn't started yet.
Okay. The other question I have is, okay, so is there, I have heard the rumor that the building that was Care and Comfort is for sale, and that whole parking lot is in fact part of that? Is it part of the sale?
It is.
So when we're talking about parking for the library, that's not necessarily going to be a piece of property that's available.
Not unless the city can fork over $2.3 million for that building.
Okay, then I would say we should put those parking spaces on Appleton Street, close that off, that part of Appleton Street. But the other question that I'm wondering about is, and I know Diane was not in favor of some of this walkability or walking, closing things off stuff, but is there any thought, or has anybody talked about closing off Appleton Street all the way down for pedestrians to make it an easier way to go, or Temple Street to go all the way down? And as far as, I used to live on Pleasant Street, now I live on Western Avenue, and it's the western side. I mean, you can get downtown when there's going to be two-way traffic. There's no way to get down there now because there's not two-way traffic. And if we were going to try and do this with the library in Appleton Street, then do it as a pilot, thank you, a pilot when we do the two-way traffic thing to see how it works. If it doesn't work, then we can stop it, but to wait until we've already done the two-way traffic and people get used to going one way or the other way, then they're going to start saying, oh, well, why are we doing it if it's already working? So it seems to me that we could do that as a test at the same way we're doing at the same time we're doing the two-way traffic, and people are having to learn to navigate differently anyway.
Steve?
I agree with you, Karen. Anything that we do right now, we should be doing as a pilot, just testing it out to see how it works and see how the traffic reacts to it, and not make any substantial investment into permanent changes until we have a good solution. So you probably will see us trying out different things over the next year or two. Those things don't work as a pilot test if you do them for like a few weeks and then stop doing them. You have to do it for a considerably long time to let people get used to it, and then you see what the results are. Your thought about closing off Temple Street to only pedestrian traffic is something that we haven't talked about at this point, but we have talked about widening the sidewalks on both sides. We have a plan to put granite curb and concrete sidewalks from Main Street down to Front Street, and to at least double the street lighting on Temple Street so that it, as the mayor says, light it up like a runway so that people aren't afraid to walk between one area and the other. One of the problems that we have in downtown Waterville right now, and I don't mean the temporary situation that we have, but historically, street lighting hasn't been very good. During the construction period of the build project, the street lighting was fantastic because they took interstate highway lights, relocated them in downtown Waterville, and lit it up like a runway. When we put the lantern-style lighting back in, it's not going to be that way. But I think it's going to be improved over what it was before the construction started, just a little bit dimmer than it has been for the last couple of years. We are also looking at lighting options to improve the lighting between City Hall, Kasongwe Square, and the Head of Falls area, because there's a lot of late-night pedestrian traffic traveling down to those parking lots that we've gotten feedback is a little bit dicey for people to make that walk because of how dark it is.
Well, good. And I hope that what we're going to do is not make the lights go upward, like I heard about on the
We're working on
bridge.
that, too.
I'm wondering about the bridge thing. Okay, good. So when you were talking about doing this as various things as pilots, is one of the pilots you're thinking about doing when you're doing the switch to when we're doing the switch to two-way, that piece of parking that would facilitate the library patrons who are older and who have children? So it's same-side parking? Is that part of it?
I think that has to be an option on the table. There are a lot of different ideas right now, and some strong voices behind different approaches. But
So-
as I said, I think anything that we do now, we should do on a temporary basis to figure out if it works.
So is there a date for when two-way parking is going to happen? Two-way
With two-way traffic on
sorry.
Main Street?
Two-way traffic, yeah.
November 5. That's when the project is going to be completed. That is a Saturday. And we're going to have a ribbon cutting on November 4th. And it'll be right there on that weekend. I'm not sure exactly which day or which hour.
Okay, so one last question, and that is, when you are thinking about doing these pilots, in what time frame is that?
Haven't been decided yet.
Well, I would just say, I think it's a good idea to do one like that on Appleton Street so that everybody's confused at the same time and people get used to it.
There's merit in that thinking.
Yeah,
I think we're all going to be confused for a little while anyway.
we will be.
Ma'am, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hi everyone, my name's Ash, and I mistakenly said I lived in Ward 4 last time. I actually live in Ward 1. I used to live in Ward 4. I really like the ideas that have been said before about trying pilot studies. I think it's a great way. It's also like more scientific, I suppose, to experiment, see what we've done right and what everyone agrees on and what we could always try to fix. I also think with this question of how, we should really consider also who is involved. So my concern is one that is perhaps more general than the intended prompt. However, I think it's important to reiterate this sentiment no matter the specific planning topic in this public input series. And I believe we as a community should demand this as a core value that we wish to uphold in Waterville decision-making spaces moving forward. This includes city planners, private planning entities, city council members, state representatives, and especially state legislators who, I know they're not sitting here, but I figured they should be named. They should prioritize the voices and experiences of people who are often overlooked and silenced during any process that involves money interests. This includes the poor, who these days actually includes me, and it most probably includes someone you know, or perhaps yourself. times are really tough financially. And many of us live to work at this point, while still worrying whether we will be able to afford our bills. What is happening at the interconnection between the head of Falls and downtown is connected to our daily grind because as companies partner with the city to expand their properties, luxury apartments and expensive stores are probably going to pop up, replacing affordable apartments and shopping options, such as downtown in the concourse. And this is called gentrification. It has its pros and cons. However, the pros are mostly related to money gains like profit, tax revenue, etc., for those who are at the top. And it is believed that wealth will trickle down, but we know that method often fails. The other values human life, wellness, and getting ahead together, rather than pushing long-term residents out of their properties, an unfortunate reality that often results in homelessness. In one of the coldest states at that. This is what Ruth Glass said about gentrification in 1964. One by one, many of the working class neighborhoods of London have been invaded by the middle classes, upper and lower. Shabby, modest mews and cottages, 2 rooms up and 2 down, have been taken over when their leases have expired and have become elegant, expensive residences. Once this process of gentrification starts in a like district, it goes on rapidly until all or most of the original working class occupiers are displaced and the whole social character of the district is changed. Is this not an issue we are also seeing here? One that begins in larger cities, but that has begun to occur in smaller cities like Waterville, and a force that will likely continue to happen despite our voiced concerns? I just urge City Council and everyone here, as well as everyone in the city, to really outline and commit to a development plan that honors our residents who are overlooked and historically silenced in decision-making circles. The planet is already destabilized enough, so why make it harder for the everyday person? Either this project honors everybody or this project honors nobody, except those with money. And that is a terrible look if we really want to appear inviting to the new young families the city hopes to attract. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Brian MacArthur, Ward 6. I wanted to reiterate a couple of points that were already made. One, that residents on the west side have almost no means whatsoever of turning left and going that direction by the post office or towards anything else. I feel like we should probably do what the young lady just mentioned, try to do things in a scientific-like manner, see where cars and people are trying to move currently, and make those thoroughfares. That's where people are naturally trying to go. That's where they want to go. That's where they need to go. So if you have, for instance, cars that are trying to go north towards, I think it's north, towards the Walmart and the freeway area, I feel like a stoplight needs to go in there somewhere. Probably at the intersection of Main is a natural place where it needs to go, or the intersection of North and Main. Something needs to go in there. I would use eminent domain if necessary to do a cut through by the Burger King, past the Dunkin' Donuts over to the post office. It feels like it's a natural cut through. People are already using. There's going to be an accident there sometime soon. That's a natural road. I'm not sure why it's private. It isn't meant to be a cut through, but it's already being used that way. We should probably just make it that way officially. With the pedestrian traffic in the downtown area, if people are already using Temple to get to Hedda Falls, I think widening those sidewalks is a fantastic idea. Making that an attractive, well-lit walkway is going to just make that a thoroughfare to get to city events. They're already using like the golf carts to ferry people back and forth to the concourse. I think that's a fantastic mobility option. If the other thoroughfare seems to be behind City Hall, using, I'm not sure of the pronunciation, but Castangwe Square towards Hedda Falls, it's kind of a seedy walk. You're like going around the behind of the building. It's not an attractive walk. Make that nicer. Figure that out in terms of lighting, vegetation, wider, nicer walkways, ones that are accessible. Utilize those thoroughfares that people are already utilizing and just beautify those, make those safer. I don't think we need anything in terms of like a sky bridge or even a tunnel. My question would be, how often is that railway used? I don't live along that railway. I don't know how many trains we have per day. Is that something that can be answered right now?
Infrequently.
We're talking once a day, 5 times a day?
Maybe 5 times a week.
Okay. And in that case, I mean, if we're not anticipating seeing a huge jump in number of trains going through there, I don't see that as a huge barrier. It's more of a visible barrier. There's ways to beautify that. There's ways to, raise the grade around the railway to make it less of a barrier. But I think, undertaking either a bridge or a tunnel, that's a huge construction project. That's a lot of money. It's potentially also a safety hazard if you have to maintain like watches or lights within the tunnel, or police patrols to try to keep it clean. Just things to consider. Again, it sounds like the parking issue is like the main issue for downtown. So maybe it's one massive garage, maybe it's several smaller garages so that can be built in a staggered way so as to cause the least amount of disruption. But yeah, I feel like expanding parking lots is not where we want to go. Building up rather than out is going to be the way that we preserve green space, preserve the kind of look that we want downtown in terms of vegetation, shop fronts, access to roads, things like that. So I think we've got the right ideas, and it's just maybe using some of those pilot programs to figure out how is the best way to go about that. But some good ideas tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Go ahead, sir.
My name is Peter Garrett, and I ain't from any ward. I'm from Winslow. And but I am the founder of Kennebec Messalonsky Trails, and I've done a lot of thinking about Header Falls, and particularly in seeing what other trails have done. And I don't know if any of you have been to Bangor to see what their waterfront has come, because their waterfront, their Riverwalk happened before ours did, and they put a restaurant right downtown, right close to the other walk. And it occurs to me, having been there several times along the trail, and I'm not necessarily at the restaurant, but it had two advantages. The one was that people at the restaurant tended to eat and then go for a walk, or go for a walk and then let's meet at the restaurant. And that was a very nice kind of add-on. The other that my observation is not as keen as some people in Bangor perhaps, but it seems to me that there has been a considerably less damage of things along the walk, the river walk there, than there has been at ours, with no commercial establishment there. The last point I'd like to make, and that is that I think the original plan for the Header Falls area was to have some commercial establishment there. So I'd just like to put all of that out there, possible.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else from the public? Go ahead, ma'am.
Winona Carnes, Ward 2. Connectivity, walkability in the city is great. I've been here 22 years. I live up on North Street. It's not uncommon for my husband and I. I used to bring my kids, and I had 4 kids. It's a pretty walkable city for the most part. And I don't know if I've missed a lot, if the atmosphere for walkability has been addressed. There's been a lot of concern about crime, trash. We missed you on Saturday, by the way, Mayor. We had a good time on the concourse cleaning up. It was a good time. But that was one of the issues, is a lot of trash, a lot of, I don't want to say vagrancy because it's not, but people who have no other place to be during the day. If you're homeless and you're at the shelter, where are you going to go? You're going to hang out in public spaces. That's not creating a walkable, welcoming city. We can't say no, just don't go there. I think part of improving Waterville needs to include a discussion about where people can be if they don't have a place to be. With the library closed, I mean, I was a case manager for years in this community. And the library, while it was open, it was a good place for somebody to go spend a couple of hours, use the restroom, cool off. With the library closed, they hang out in the concourse. There's been a lot of complaints about, I don't feel comfortable being there. How do you create a walkable city if people aren't comfortable being there? You need to balance both of these issues. And, we can have a great, we can widen sidewalks, we can make lighted walkways, but if people aren't comfortable because there are people that don't meet a particular standard criteria, looking, and I mean, I've worked in mental health for years, so I'm not trying to be disparaging, but a lot of people are put off by people who don't have any place else to be, and that needs to be part of the discussion is, where can people be that they're not hanging out on the sidewalk in the concourse, leaving their trash there or urinating because they don't have access to a bathroom? I mean, has there been a discussion about how to change the what's the word I'm looking for? The culture in the city is, when you have 20, 30, 40 people hanging out in the concourse all day with no place else to be, how can you say this city is welcoming and walkable, but these people we're just going to leave over here, don't look, let's put in this great sidewalk, let's build Lockwood Hotel, but these people, we'll just leave them here. I mean, that needs to be part of the discussion is how do we help these people get off the sidewalks and stop urinating or defecating or whatever they're doing. I mean, when we cleaned up the concourse on Saturday, I cleaned up somebody's campsite behind the buildings there. Blankets, clothes, bags of it. Where are these people going to go? It really needs to be part of the discussion if you want a walkable, welcoming city to find a place for people that are off-putting, maybe more affluent people. It's just a part of the discussion that needs to happen.
Well, thank you for naming what has kind of been the elephant in the room since we started these discussions. I think that what we really want to do is make sure that Waterville is a welcoming place for everyone. I don't think anyone I think everyone should be welcome in the space, no matter what they look like or whether they have a home or not. Part of the problem is going to be to address our 24% poverty rate and the fact that we don't have enough housing for our people. So that's should be front and center in this conversation.
Go ahead, ma'am.
Well, I'm Ken Blodek's wife, and I work at the Yard Goods Center. And I have, in some addressing some of these issues, called the police because of the fights that have broken out in front of the store. And we do have quite a few elderly people that come in, and I don't know where we're going to, how to address this issue either. I'm not particularly afraid, but in the wintertime when you're there and you're closing up at night and you've got people screaming outside the door, it is scary. We don't want to park behind the building. We try to park in front of the building so that when we close up, we come out and we can go. And I'm not a particularly fearful person either. But these are some issues. And I'm also a quilter, so as you talk about Temple Street, my mind goes, and I'm already designing, like a beautiful, close it off, beautiful brick. The whole thing's a sidewalk. You have some kind of overhang with lights so that the whole area is lit up. And some benches. I mean, even if we put, whether they're concrete benches in a little park-like area, everyone would be welcome to sit there. I don't care how much money you make. I don't care if your shirt is torn, whatever. That's fine. Come have a rest. Was it Utah that had those beautiful that we went into? I'm trying to think. They had this beautiful park area, and they literally had like outdoor furniture with cushions, and it was huge. The area was huge. I'm not talking one or two things like this, and of course that would be fine during the summer, but I mean, I bet there was 10 or 12 of these couch-like chairs and what you would have at home out on your deck, and anybody could sit there and be comfortable. And it was surrounded by restaurants and what have you, and not everybody was affluent, but people could be comfortable, and somebody could actually take a nap, and there was all kinds of people there, people with kids, people no kids, people with their backpacks. You could tell that they lived on the street, but for the day they had a comfortable place to sit. And perhaps they also had some public restrooms that you could go into and use. And we've seen this in a lot of the cities we've gone in, that they had restrooms and outdoor restrooms that were used and maintained. And maybe they weren't always the cleanest, but it was a place to go, and it didn't cost a nickel or a dime to get in. We're paying for toilet paper and some water where they can wash their hands afterwards, and a mirror or something where they can comb their hair. So, as we welcome all these Kobe kids and everything else, why can't we plan a place where these people can go? And I have even seen places, we all watch the TV, where they have mobile showers. Anyway, so that's my little 2 cents worth as we look to plan for a beautiful city. Why can't we provide an outbuilding with running water and a couple of toilets for those who are less fortunate?
If anybody decides that's a good idea, that was my capstone for my master's degree, so I had to write the program. So I got the whole thing. So if anybody wants to do it, I got it.
Anyone else from the public? All right, we're gonna take a 5-minute recess before the meeting.
That has her hand raised. I'll bring Nancy
All right.
in.
I didn't see the online.
Sorry, I didn't either. So
It's not
Nancy is
visible to
coming
us.
in.
Yeah.
Nancy, can you hear us?
I can.
Hi, Nancy.
Hi. I'm out on my porch and there's not a lot of light here, so that's why I look so dark. But in several things. One, in terms of where folks that are unhoused can be, that certainly has been part of the conversation in earlier meetings when we have talked about the need for a community center. So that's one way to address that. Also, I just wanted to support Diane's thought of covered walkways, which I think could make some folks who maybe don't like the idea of parking, say at Hedda Falls and walking over to the art center, maybe to go to the movies, if there was some sort of covered walk Way that could be built that was lit at night, that could be a help in terms of that. And I also like the idea of extending City Hall over to where the Social Security building is, and there being an attached garage. So those are my thoughts on how to connect things. Thanks.
Thank you, Nancy. Anybody else online?
There's one more online. Let me put Nancy back. And
I'm glad Claude
online
caught it. I can't
is,
see it from here.
one moment. Linda Woods. I will promote Linda. Hi, Linda. Can you hear us okay? You're on mute.
Thanks, Patty.
You're welcome.
I probably would have talked without putting it off mute, so thank you. I'm Linda Woods. I live in Ward 4. I was in Ken Lodak's class in high school, so I've been here in Waterville for 71 years. I once again want to repeat my primary message that I've sent to city councilors several times, is to talk to people who actually cross Front Street. I thought tonight's meeting was specific to Head of Falls and connectivity, and Front Street is a huge problem. So I encourage you, please, to talk to people who use this space. Listen to all of us, of course, but talk to the people who actually cross. So I'm going to base what I'm going to say on my own experience. For 10 years, I parked at Head of Falls. I crossed Front Street to get to my office in City Hall. Crossing was dangerous. Many drivers consider Front Street to be a raceway. After all, there's no reason for them to slow down. In about that same comparable distance on Elm Street, there are 3 traffic lights. There are no traffic lights on Front Street, so people are going to take that and go as quickly and as fast as they can. I'd like to see, at the very minimum, stoplights at every intersection that would force people to slow down and pay attention to the pedestrians who want to cross the street. I love the idea of covered walkways, especially if they are lit. Certainly Head of Falls is not well lit now. Ask anybody who's been to the farmer's market at the end of the session. When I pick up for gleaning, I often have to wear a headlight. So be careful. I'd love to see more lighting brought in. An elevated crosswalk with covering would solve my problems of getting from Head of Falls to Main Street. And that's all I need to say. So thank you.
Thank you, Linda. Anyone else? All right, now we're going to take 5 minutes. Good evening, everyone. This is a regularly scheduled meeting of the Waterville City Council. There are agendas available in the file pockets near the entrance or on the City of Waterville's website. All items appearing on the consent agenda are voted on in one motion and vote. Generally, these items are routine in nature and do not require discussion. All items listed under unfinished business or new business are voted on separately. First, councilors will be given an opportunity for questions or comments. Once councilors have had an opportunity to speak, citizens will be given an opportunity for comments or questions. Citizens must speak and identify themselves. Each citizen will be allowed one opportunity to speak and will be limited to 3 minutes. Finally, councilors will be given an opportunity to speak or comment. Citizens who would like to speak on a topic that does not appear on tonight's agenda will have an opportunity to do so at the end of the public comments section of the agenda, which is actually at the beginning of the meeting. And let's do the Pledge of Allegiance first.
It's at the beginning. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
That is correct. All right. We'll start the meeting with a proclamation. Whereas Indigenous Peoples Day was first proposed in 1977 by the delegation of Native nations to the International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in America, and whereas the City of Waterville recognizes the historic, cultural, and contemporary significance of Indigenous peoples of the lands that also become known as the Americas, and whereas the City of Waterville recognizes it was founded, built upon lands first inhabited by Indigenous peoples of this region, and acknowledges and honors these members of the community, and whereas in Act 18 of 2019 officially establishes the second Monday of each October as Indigenous Peoples Day, and whereas the City of Waterville is committed to ensuring equity of Indigenous people in our state. Now therefore, I, Jay Coelho, as Mayor of Waterville, on behalf of the City Council and the residents of Waterville, do hereby proclaim October 10th, 2022 as Indigenous Peoples Day. Who are we giving this one to? I'm going to keep this one. I'm keeping that one.
Mayor, we have to go to the conflicts of interest.
That's what I'm doing now.
Okay.
Conflict of interest? Anyone? No. All right, moving on. Public comments. Elizabeth, and then Karen.
Elizabeth Leonard, Ward 4, and I just want to use this opportunity to extend a heartfelt thank you to Councilors Frankie and Councilors DeBrito for coming to the giveaway table at the concourse last Friday, and Flavia, Councilor DeBrito, and her comrade from Maine Equal Justice also brought coffee and donuts, which was really wonderful. And Councilor Frankie brought a big clipboard and took notes for 2 hours, an hour and a half to 2 hours, with the people who come to our giveaway table because they're so hungry and desperate and need so many things. And he had great conversations, I hope, with them, and Councilor DeBrito did as well. And it really meant a lot to people to have these city councilors there talking to them. And I know that Councilor DeBrito was also able to help people get their stimulus money and get other funds that they didn't know how to get, and people were tearing up, and it was a very powerful experience. So thank you so much for coming. It meant a lot to me that you were there. It meant a lot to the Poverty Action Coalition, and it meant a lot to the people that you spoke to. And the other thing I wanted to announce is that this Saturday, October 8th, from 1:30 to 3:30, we are having a rally at the Unitarian Church in out of concern for the protection of abortion rights and reproductive justice in this state. These privileges are still legal in this state, but they could be lost at any time, and we are gathering. We'll have speakers, we'll have music, perhaps, if it's not too cold, and it should be a good opportunity for people to come and express their support for abortion rights and reproductive justice, and we hope you will join us at the Unitarian Church from 1:30 to 3:30 p.m. this Saturday, October 8th. It's, we're organizing it here in Waterville, and but it is in conjunction with the Women's March
Women's Wave 2022 in advance of the election. Thank you.
Thank you. Karen?
Karen Heck, Ward 6. First, I want to say I totally appreciate the fact that you did the proclamation for Indigenous Peoples Day, and I think it would be nice if actually at the beginning of council meetings we acknowledge the fact that we are meeting on Indigenous land. That wasn't the reason I came up, but I do hope that the council would consider that. I just wanted to come up because a month ago I came to talk about 165 Main Street and what was happening. And one of the suggestions or comments that came up was that the city or the TIF committee could talk to the owners of that building to find out what their plans were. And I'm just wondering if that happened, or if the TIF committee, which I think, Claude, you are in the chair of, has had any discussions about holding people sort of accountable, or at least bringing them in to find out what their intentions and their actions are, or have been, or are going to be.
I'm going to give Councilor Frankie an opportunity to respond.
Well, certainly, Karen. One of the things that I would like to see the TIF committee do is to tighten up our procedures and start to keep track, better track of what's happening with the various projects around town. Have not gotten the TIF committee together to do that, but I hope that we'll be able to do that sometime, probably next month, to start that discussion. You're absolutely right that there needs to be a little more accountability to this program. It is a matter of subsidizing developers with tax laws, and we really should know what's happening with our money. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you. I hope you start with 165. Thanks.
Anyone else? Cindy?
Cindy Jacobs, Ward 4, but I have my Waterville Public Library Board of Trustee President hat on tonight, and I'd like you all to know that we will be reopening the library on October 26th, and we could not be happier. We think all of the community is going to be thrilled. The city has allowed us to make all kinds of wonderful upgrades and changes to our wonderful historic Carnegie Library, and we just can't wait to welcome all of you into our building, which normally has 300 to 400 people a day attend once we are moving right along. That does bring me to number 2, which is I know all of you counselors are familiar with my suggestion and MDOT approved plan to close a small portion of Appleton Street to make same side of street parking for the library. I would really like to get a commitment from someone this evening to be able to put this on the agenda to take a vote to do it as a pilot for, I know Mr. Daly said it needs to be more than a few weeks. I'm not sure what the city would recommend as a time frame for doing something like that, but I would like to do it for whatever time the city recommends, and I would like to do it when we open the town to two-way traffic so that we, as we all agreed, we all get tangled up all at one time. And I'm hoping that I could get a commitment to put that on the agenda for your next meeting.
Well, I think it's a good idea, and I'm certainly willing to bring it to the council. I think we should talk about it. This is the time,
right?
As you say,
right.
When the traffic changes, and I hope, this is a big unknown for us. It hasn't changed yet.
Right.
But when we think about what it's going to be like, I mean, we actually just don't know. And our patterns will change.
Right.
So I think it's a great time to try this pilot.
Great. And as you all should really know, the key to this is same side of street parking for the library that has 80% of its patrons being under 5 and over 60. And it's also a major pedestrian safety issue. A lot of things will get a lot better if people are not racing up and down Appleton Street. I crossed there twice today and almost got killed because people are driving too fast. I know that once we make it two-way traffic in other portions of town, I think it will slow the traffic down. That's another area that needs to be slowed down. So thank you for bringing it up next time. I'll be here, and come to the library.
Anyone else? All right. Council committees? Seeing none, I'm going to move on to the city manager's report.
Well, two or three people have spoken about the things that I wanted to update you on tonight.
Like the library?
Like the library, like the volunteer work in the concourse. You've all seen the paving that's been done on Silver Street, Elm Street, and the major intersection in front of the fire station. I don't recall if I've mentioned this, but the DOT was not going to pave that intersection, and our city staff leaned on them, and they gave in and decided to do it, and I think it makes all the difference in the world. The last thing I want to talk about, though, is the build project. It is on schedule to be completed by November 5th. We have a problem with the street lighting poles. They're going in slowly. There's virtually no lighting on Main Street right now because they took all the others out and they relocated them to the intersection of Front College and Chaplin Street. So those will be going in as they can get it done. They're the wrong color. There was an error made by the vendor. They're sort of a gray beige, and they're going to be removed a few at a time over the next several months and powder coated black, which was what they were expected to be. The team that I've been working with, which has been the Mid-Maine Chamber, Colby, MDOT, and Waterville Creates, to arrange a grand opening of Main Street, has settled on November 4th as the date for that. It's a Friday. It'll be 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and we've scaled all the plans back to a ribbon cutting. We're going to hold it on the south patio of the Lockwood Hotel, where Colby has held a number of events recently. It just seems to be an ideal location for that sort of thing. And we'll have a ribbon cutting across the street right there, and hopefully that will be when it opens up to two-way traffic. We've invited several governmental dignitaries, Senator Collins, Governor Mills, MDOT Commissioner Noy, you, Mayor, even though you don't have the invite yet, and President Green from Colby. We don't have any confirmations at this point, which is one of the reasons that we scaled it all down to a ribbon cutting instead of something more grandiose. And perhaps we'll be able to do something more festive in the spring. That's what our hope is.
They can't respond if they don't get invitations. Go ahead, Councilor Green.
Well,
Yeah, so that's exciting. I didn't realize until tonight that it would be November 4th. I guess my question is, what is the plan to let people know about this change and make sure that we have safe conditions?
the change meaning to two-way traffic?
Yes.
We're having a meeting on Friday to talk about the signage, the public outreach, and the traffic flows as they're designed to be. And I will have an answer after that.
Okay.
Anyone else? Go ahead. Same hat?
Pardon me?
Same hat?
Yeah.
Okay.
Same hat, same hat. First of all, the paving has been absolutely, truly amazing. From everybody in my neighborhood, everybody driving around town. It's just so great to have paved roads. My car thanks you. Regarding celebrations, it made me think of it when Steve mentioned it. We would love to have, we are planning celebrations at the library. We discussed having a great big bash, but we decided in the current environment that maybe the best way to handle it would be to do it kind of over a 4 to 6 month period. We'll be doing special programs that talk about how the renovation was done, and we're just going to have different celebrations for different things. They are not all totally educational. A lot of them are going to just be fun for young people, for teenagers, for adults. But stay tuned. But we did really decide that it was not a great idea to have a giant bash with 200 people in the library in this current climate. So that's why we're not doing it that way. But stay tuned, because we'll be doing lots of interesting programming.
Thank you, Cindy. It's all right. Moving on to the consent agenda.
Move to adopt?
Second. What's
Okay,
that?
Ben. Yep.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yes, but Claude has his hand up. I don't know.
I can't see Claude's hand. Go ahead. I'm sorry, Claude.
Yes, I would like to move to amend the minutes to reflect that the resolution that appointed people to the Finance Committee, appointed people to counselors to the School City Finance Committee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, Patty.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yeah.
Counselor Green?
So
we're
the-
voting on the amendment, and then we'll move the whole consent agenda.
Yeah, I just want to have the amendment repeated, because I'm not clear on what it was.
So the amendment is to clarify that the folks that were appointed to the Finance Committee is the City School Finance Committee, not the Municipal Finance Committee.
Gotcha. Okay. Yes.
Thank you. Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
Vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed. Can we move it as amended?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
All set?
Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yeah.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
Vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to old business, ordinance 201, 2022.
Is there a motion to read everything by title only?
So moved.
So moved.
Second.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yeah.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Only 2 weeks, Jay, and you've already forgotten. Yes.
That's how it goes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed. Ordinance
201, 2022.
Amend the zoning ordinance 287 and 289 Main Street.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yeah.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to order 202, 2022.
Approve use of funds to support Mid-Maine homeless shelter programs.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Heating and cooling. Any discussion? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yeah.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, new business, resolution 207, 2022.
Dedicating the skate park in Green Street Park.
Any discussion?
Can
or
we put it on the
comment?
floor?
I'll move to adopt.
Second.
Thank you.
I get a second?
Yeah.
Now, go ahead. Do you have something you want to? Did you have something you want to say for this?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, so can we get some background on this? This is a proposal to dedicate the skate park to a young man who was very involved in its emergence. And I have a letter that I wanted to read from Kim Linloff of the Mid-Maine Chamber, describing his involvement in the park, if I can find it in my email.
I've got it up if you want.
Okay, and I don't have to be the one reading it either, but it does really
Can you read it for us, Tom, if you got it?
explain why this is a great idea. Oh, here it is. Okay. Oh, I got it.
Me to read it, or you got it?
I've got it. Again, this is from Kim Linloff, Chamber of Commerce. Dear Waterville councilors, I saw in today's Sentinel that the topic of naming the skate park after David Dutil is on the council agenda. David served as a Thomas College intern and a work-study student here at the Mid-Maine Chamber for a couple of years. During that time, he spent a semester locating and categorizing all of the sporting assets throughout the state of Maine for the Maine Sports Commission during its initial startup. He literally located every outdoor tennis court, basketball courts and gyms, soccer, field hockey, lacrosse and football fields, pools, cross-country and downhill ski locations, etc., etc. It was a ton of work. He loved to skateboard and traveled all over to do so. He even did a presentation to Waterville Rotary Club to try to get it to adopt the skate park as its annual project one year. He was a good kid whose passion came through. When he passed, Thomas College and Mid-Maine Chamber hosted a celebration of his life at Thomas College. Such a loss. All of this to say, please name the skate park after David. It was his dream. No one had more passion for it than he did.
Any other discussion? Yes, please.
My name is Denise Dutel. I was David's father and one of his biggest fans. I worked alongside of him for quite a while, trying to get this park started when it was just a grassy field. He was a great rollerblader. He, a very unselfish kid. I was so proud of him. He worked tirelessly to have this done. And for you all to dedicate this after him was actually his last wish before he passed. So I extremely, with great humbleness, thank you very much. I thank Matt, Mr. Finch, Anna, everyone that was involved with this. I've spent a lot of time down there. Actually went down there today with my roller skates, because I don't skateboard or rollerblade, but I do roller skate. And it is just amazing the job they did down there. It's going to last for a long time. A lot of kids are going to get such great use out of it. I just wanted to say thank you very much to you all, and God bless. Thank you.
Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor DeBrito?
Yeah, definitely, yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yes, thank you.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right. Resolution 208, 2022.
Approve contract award for winter sand.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? I got something. Go ahead, Councilor Green.
I just had a question. When we rejoined KV Cog, wasn't that part of the deal that the sand would be, that we would save on sand? Maybe it was something else. But
I think it was salt.
It was salt.
Right.
Okay, gotcha. All right, just checking.
One of those
Okay.
S words.
Yeah. All right.
All the S words except for savings is what we're gonna get. Was this the bet? How much are we spending?
About $30,000. Yeah, it's about what we spent over the last 2 years, so no inflation. Although the trucking, all the diesel and fuel will cost a little more this year.
All right. Anyone else? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Nancy Sanford has her hand raised. I'm not sure if this is
Okay.
something. Let me bring her in.
We need a better system.
Hi, Nancy. You had your hand raised. Do you want to speak to this item?
No, actually, I've had my hand up since the beginning of the public comment section.
I'm sorry.
So I can wait until some other time that's more appropriate in this meeting to say.
You're on
what I
now.
have. Okay. And Nancy Sanford, Ward 1. And I want to talk about winter and folks that are unhoused. In the Saturday, October 1st Morning Sentinel article regarding their currently paused emergency rental assistance program, Maine State Housing spokesperson Scott Thistle said if they receive the additional funding requested, they will be able to extend the program through at least much of the winter. Well, let's hope they receive the added funding, but that does not address the long-term question of what then, or what about people that don't qualify for the program's already lowered income guidelines. It is not news to anyone here tonight that we have a housing crisis in Waterville and beyond. It is also not news that winter is coming. I am afraid that some winter morning I'm going to wake up in my warm home to the news that some unhoused human being froze to death. We can prevent this from happening. During the winter, before the now Mid-Maine homeless shelter opened, there was a temporary shelter in the basement of the Baptist church on the corners of Elm and Park Streets. Other churches and organizations supported that effort. As a resident and taxpayer in Waterville, I would be happy and proud of my city to see municipal funds being expended to coordinate and help run such an effort this winter. We have the money and the know-how to prevent someone from dying from exposure this winter, so it would be unconscionable if we fail to do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Go ahead, Councilor Green.
Yeah, I just want to, thank you for bringing up this issue, Nancy, that is on many people's minds. We did just vote tonight to allot $15,000 to the homeless shelter for their warming and cooling shelter. And that facility is a low barrier shelter that's open to anyone who chooses to come in out of the cold. And there will be, I believe, plans for overflow as well. It is a serious problem. We are, we are putting money towards that and talking about other solutions that we can implement. But it's a complicated problem, and we can't force people to come inside either. So.
Correct.
But we need, we need to continue to work to find a solution, or several solutions that will help address this problem. Because like you, I don't want to wake up to that headline either. So it should be.
And my experience through a fairly good amount of years volunteering with organizations that where homelessness is one of the issues, is that most, not all, but most folks that are unhoused, given the option, are appreciative of the ability to be housed. So I appreciate that that you folks are, that this is in the forefront of conversations now.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.
I also had a comment to add with that. Because when we're talking about with like solving, like we're trying to solve the problems, trying to solve the problems, I don't think we ever heard from unhoused people. And I went to the soup kitchen the other day and just hearing from them, and it's some of the problem is it's minor that we can actually help them. So why don't we actually take some of this public forum and bring it to the soup kitchen where the people are at? Because we're talking about fixing the problem, but I haven't seen no unhoused people here.
We'll touch on that later. I need a vote on this resolution 208, 2022 for sand.
Are you all set?
I am.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yeah.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to Order 209, 2022.
Approve a natural gas easement, the concourse. I need a motion.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Steve, can you tell us about this?
Yes.
This would be a gas main extended from Appleton Street behind the condominium section of the concourse, which is on the east side, I believe you would call it. The representations that we've had are that all the owners along there have requested it. And I heard tonight from one of the owners that he hasn't been contacted and doesn't know of others that have been contacted also. This is an order that requires 2 votes of the council. It would appear to be a good thing to do. Our city engineer recommends it and said that everything is in order as far as the document is concerned. You might want to take your first vote tonight, and we'll clear up the confusion that we have right now before the next meeting, and then you can move forward with a second vote then.
So, is somebody here from the natural gas company?
No.
Are they online? I've missed a few online. No?
No. We can certainly have them here at the next meeting.
I think they should be. I mean, they should have been here for this meeting.
Yeah, done.
If it was that important to them. I think you guys should table it, especially if you know that there's at least one person that was not notified. I mean, where's the
Yeah,
planning
that's fine
board?
too.
Did we send out letters? Did Ann send out letters? Were we required to send out letters?
No, this is all private exchange between the property owners and the gas company, but the gas company needs the easement across city property in order to service the buildings.
So is our easement, without our easement, they can't do it?
Correct.
Well, then somebody should be here next time.
We'll make that
Can I
happen.
get a motion to table?
Motion to table.
Second.
Patty, can you get a roll call on that motion? Oh, wait, Claude, I do see that, I see the little bit of red and the yellow stands out.
Yes. Steve, can we get maybe a map and a little bit deeper explanation by the next meeting?
Get a map with it?
Yep.
Yes,
There is
yes,
a
so
map
we
with
know exactly where the
There was a
easement
map
is.
in
I think, I thought so too. I think
Oh,
there was
I'm
a
sorry, there's a representation of where we'd go, but there is not an exact plan for the easement.
Well, we'd like, Claude
Yeah.
would like something like that.
We'll do that.
Thank you.
All right, can I get a?
Motion to
motion?
table.
Yep.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yeah.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed.
Okay, moving on to Resolution 210, 2022.
Establishing hours for voter registration.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Any discussion? Patty, you want to tell us?
What's that?
This is for you, right?
Yeah, this will establish extended hours until 7 p.m. on 2 Wednesdays towards the end of October, the 19th and the 26th.
Okay.
All set?
There's going to be public announcement and everything to go with it, or
Yep, we put it out on Facebook and the website.
does it go in the paper?
Yep, it goes in the
Okay.
newspaper too.
Roll call, Patty.
This is the standard. This is the standard expansion.
Yes, for even numbered November elections, we do usually do a couple of evenings of extended hours. And if there's no people coming in to register to vote, we get caught up on other work.
Okay.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yeah.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
Vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to Resolution 212, 2022.
It's 211 we're on,
211.
actually. Authorizing a regular municipal election to be held on November 8, 2022.
Move to adopt.
Second.
I put them both together. Any discussion?
I'd just love to have you tell us about absentee voting. What's the last date to get a ballot to vote absentee?
Yes. So requests are being accepted now for absentee ballots. We'll start mailing out the ballots tomorrow for the requests that we've received. We plan to start in-person absentee voting on Tuesday after the holiday next week. The deadline to request an absentee ballot for no reason is Thursday, November 3rd at the close of business, 4:30 p.m. After that time, you would need a special circumstance to vote by absentee ballot, like you're going to be, unexpectedly in the hospital or away or that sort of thing.
Okay, thanks.
And we don't send those out just to anyone. You got to request them, correct?
You have to request a ballot. You can call, if you go to the city's website, we have all the options available, but you can call the city clerk's office and request one over the phone. There's an online application. There's a link there through the Secretary of State's office, or you can come in person and fill out an application, or vote in-person absentee starting next week.
All right. Counselor Frankie.
Just remind me, Patty, where exactly are we voting on November the 8th?
We will be voting at the Waterville Junior High Gymnasium from 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. on November 8th.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Any other questions? Patty, can I get a roll call?
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yes.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed.
Moving on to Resolution 212, 2022.
Amendment to the Housing Committee charge.
Move to adopt.
Second.
Pat, can I get some, what is the amendment?
I can speak to that.
Okay.
So the Housing Committee was established with a charge that outlined conditions for membership in various sectors such as construction, nonprofit, affordable housing, real estate, et cetera. But there was also a requirement that a member be a resident of Waterville. And we've had several, we have a couple of openings right now. We have several people interested who don't live in Waterville but work in Waterville and haven't, sort of vested interest in Waterville. So this is to loosen that restriction so that we can get these folks on the committee and get their input. I think we would still prefer that people be residents of Waterville. So my colleague, Councillor McCormick, offered an amendment. Do you want to put that on the floor?
The amendment would be that preference would be given to residents if there were more than one person vying for the same position. residents first, then everybody else.
I can see that.
I can
Is
second
there
that.
a second?
Mm-hmm.
What's that?
Yeah, I'll get a roll, Counselor Frankie. I saw it go up this time.
I'm going to oppose this amendment. There are some committees we have that, for instance, the Comprehensive Plan Committee, where it seems appropriate to have people that are not residents on the committee. But I think that housing is one of those particularly unique things that should require a residency to be a member on that committee, yeah.
Counselor Klepak.
Can I ask Councilor McCormick what his rationale is?
I'm looking at, I'm somewhat in agreement with Claude. We should have people from the city on the committee. That's our housing, our city, take care of our residency. As it is, according to Ms. Green here, you can't find anybody to come to work to do the job. So we're gonna have to go out and find people to help with this. And if you've got people that have a vested interest that are coming into town every day, that's your second option. The preference would be to keep residents on the committee if we could get them. If there's a shortage and you can't get enough people, you have to go somewhere to find them.
Well, isn't this also just an issue of advertising? I mean, maybe we're not doing a good job of recruiting people for the committee. Maybe residents aren't really aware that this is an option. They have this opportunity to serve. It's a good opportunity for someone who maybe want to get involved in local governance, but doesn't have a huge capacity for a time commitment, but could serve on a committee. But I don't know, how are these posts advertised, Patty?
Generally, we put advertisements on the Facebook page and the website. At the annual process in December, we do a newspaper ad as well to publish what vacancies there are. I will say, though, that there was a problem with the online applications getting directed to me, and Council Green had questioned if certain people had applied or not. And so I spoke with our IT department, and I said, I'm not sure that I'm getting these applications. And I got about 20 applications that day. So I'm not sure if there was but I don't know. I haven't honestly looked through to see which committees they've indicated, because I've been very busy with the election prep. But I do have a stack of applications that I haven't acknowledged receipt of or anything yet, so.
So should you guys be tabling this one too?
I mean, I'll motion to table to see if some people want to step up.
Second.
Yeah, I can only nominate people I know are interested, so.
Yeah.
So there's a motion to table?
Yep, and I got a, McCormick, and then Flavia seconded.
No.
Yep.
Somebody up there second that.
All right, are we ready for a vote, or?
Klepak. Yes.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yeah.
Counselor Green?
Sure.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed.
All right, moving on to counselor comments.
Oh, we want to, there's an item to consider
Oh, yeah.
waiver of
Right.
cloture. Should I read it?
Please.
It's a resolution to approve a bid for airport fuel tank refurbishment. Be it resolved by the City Council of the City of Waterville as follows, that the low bid of $22,980.50 be awarded to Aqua Terra Vapor Blasting of Tenants Harbor, Maine. Funding for the project will be allocated out of the airport's solar reserve account. So I need a motion to waive cloture.
So moved.
Second.
What do we do?
Can I take a roll call on that to make sure
On the
that?
amendment, yes.
No, this is just the ability to waive cloture and put it on the
Oh,
floor.
go ahead.
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yes, please.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed, so do we want to put it on the floor for discussion?
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
Steve, what are they actually doing?
They, excuse me, they're sandblasting the fuel tanks that are above-ground tanks. They're metal. And then they're going to put a special treatment on them and then paint them. The fuel tanks are all rusty at this point, and we just need to, keep them up. It's regular maintenance. The bids came in on Friday. That's why it didn't get on the agenda. And there was only one bid. The price was reasonable. It's about $23,000. And we want to get it done before the winter arrives. That's why we asked that it be taken up tonight.
Was Friday the deadline for bids?
This past Friday was.
All right. 23 grand to paint some tanks?
Sandblasting.
All right.
Sandblasting a fuel tank. How much grounding do you need?
It's not my job. All right, any discussion?
Counselor DeBrito?
Yes.
Counselor Klepak?
Yeah.
Counselor Green?
Yes.
Counselor Frankie?
Yes.
Counselor McCormick?
Yes.
The vote is 5 in favor and 0 opposed.
Thank you.
Now council comments.
Okay.
Go ahead, Counselor Green.
Yeah, so I want to bring up the subject of garbage, solid waste, what have you. I was very happy to see the volunteer effort that happened in the concourse, but I think we need to do a better job of providing place for people to dispose of their trash there. I walked it today, and there are no trash cans on the west side of the concourse, and there are many on the east. So I'm not sure why that is, but I think we should look at changing that. I've talked a number of times to a resident of one of the trailer parks who has to pay for his own waste disposal because it isn't covered because he lives in a trailer park. His rent just went up $75, and he has an additional fee of $35 a month to take care of his garbage. And then there's also $35. Yeah, plus lawn maintenance, plus snow removal. Okay. So there's not a lot that we can do without introducing rent control to prevent rents from going up, but we can help residents out with better trash service. And I think there are a lot of things that we could look at because I think that our residents, our low-income residents, are cost burdened with our current solid waste system. So I just wanted to throw that out there as something that we could discuss in the coming weeks.
Counselor Frankie.
Okey-doke. Yes, I went, as Elizabeth Leonard mentioned earlier in the meeting, I went down to the concourse on Friday, and I talked to people who frequent the concourse that don't necessarily come to council meetings, and they had a whole list of ideas, things that they would like to see in the concourse redevelopment. So I'm just going to read a couple of things. Number one on their list was, as Councilor Green just mentioned, keeping the concourse clean, providing trash cans for refuse. Then they also were interested in making sure that we still have a grocery store and variety stores as part of the mix. Public bathrooms was mentioned. A transportation bus hub was included, as well as a community center, a bike share program. They've got one of those down in Portland now, and benches around for some of us old folks who get tired as we're walking around the concourse. Would be nice. Anyway, I'll send you a list, Patty, of the some of those things so that it'll be easier for you to get it into the minutes. Thank you.
Steve, why do we not have trash cans on the other side of the concourse?
There were, excuse me, there were city trash cans there, as I understand it, a few years ago, but there was a lot of difficulty, I'm told, in keeping them empty and keeping people from dumping their household trash in those cans. And on top of it all, that whole strip along there is private property. So Public Works and the city drifted away from it, and I think that was more than a couple of years ago, and that's why there aren't cans there now.
I think when we talk about that side of the concourse, we have to realize that it is private property. That's why when we've had our discussions, I'm like, there needs to be another way to penalize the business owners over there because they're not taking care of the front of their stores. They don't, even if we give them trash cans, who's going to empty them? They're not going to empty them. And they should have trash cans over. There's no reason why we don't. I mean, people are going to illegally dump all over our city. They do it now. We're constantly cleaning mattresses over embankments, having to clean out blue trash bins maybe twice a week instead of once a week. I'm on Common Street, where my business, right across from City Hall, and people illegally dump in that blue trash can all the time. I've seen it overflow and sit there for a week at a time. It shouldn't be that way. But we need some sort of ordinance that requires these shop owners to keep the front of their places clean. It's not all on the city. We can only do so much of it. It's private property. On the other side of the concourse, we can do those things. Those are our sidewalks.
What about the parking lot?
What about?
Like, is that a private property?
No, the
too?
parking lot is ours, but certain spots are dedicated to some of those businesses, and they were given to them for like 30 years at a time.
Yeah, but also too, that little park that was in the middle of the concourse got taken away from the people too. So that's a space where a trash can could have been.
Yeah, and this should be the last year that they were supposed to be able to use that park anyway.
But
So-
yeah, because even when you walk around that concourse area, even in the parking lot, there is spaces there that a trash can, like they can put a trash can there. There's no need for that whole area, that side, to not have a trash can. Because
they should
even me with
definitely
little kids, I go to Save a Lot all the time, and we come out with trash sometimes because I have kids. You know, we're like, where are we gonna put the trash?
They're just gonna dump it in the parking lot because there's no barrels there.
Yeah.
Cindy?
Now, I've actually looked into a lot of this when you talk about the private businesses there and the sidewalk, because I've been trying to get that triangle cleaned up, as you know, with the new Chinese restaurant there on the corner. And we did find out some very interesting information, which is, you know, who owns the roof and who owns the sidewalk? And it turned out the city owns the sidewalk in front of all those buildings.
In front of what building?
Andy McPherson's. I mean, that's what happened down the side of that building.
If we own every inch of that sidewalk, we should be taking care of it like we do on Main Street.
I think we need clarification on all that. I
The-
mean, we used to have a ton of trash cans. We had 3 big blue trash cans down by the library there, and they were taken away a few years ago, as Steve said, because they were getting all overflowed with trash from everybody all over Creation. And the city finally said, you know, we're done with this. So then all of a sudden at the library, we ended up with all kinds of trash in our trash cans, so that we actually reduced to one of our, we reduced the trash cans on our patio because people were coming and dumping stuff there all the time. But that little corner there, I mean, we've just been through this.
Can you please find out who owns that stretch of sidewalk? Because if it's ours,
This is beside the Asian restaurant?
well, no. We're talking about the sidewalk all the way good.
Yeah,
From Yard Goods
I'll
all
find
the way
out.
down to Goodwill.
My understanding is that that's private property. It's not owned by the city. But I'll verify that or refute it.
Yes, let's verify that, because if that is ours, we should absolutely have some barrels out there.
And also too, I had another question. Do we have like any program to help like low-income people with trash bags? Because at the giveaway, at the giveaway table that Elizabeth has, that's one of the things that she puts out, and it goes out fast.
So I actually talked to Steve and Matt about this, and I believe we discussed the idea of having them be available at general assistance for people to pick up if they were low income.
Or would you ever consider a subsidy for like families with children that have like lots of diapers? I mean, me and my husband have barely any trash, but families have a ton. And I know that they would have to apply for it and all, but that was when we first brought this whole purple bag thing up. It was sort of something that was like, gee, my neighbors down the street need 5 bags, and I need one small one.
Right.
And it's expensive. So maybe there's a way to also do it for young families, babies.
I think these are the things we need to look at.
Or, just
Yeah.
a subsidy. It doesn't need to be for free. But
Right.
subsidized.
Because how much is a purple bag again? $15. You know what I could do with $15 to feed my kids?
But
13. Imagine that. I can go to whole McDonald's and get like a whole meal for my kid. Like, especially at times like this.
But we also have to remember that part of the reason that these purple trash bags came about is so that you didn't have one household throwing out 10 bags and one household throwing out one. And the house that throws out one because they recycle and do all the things that they're supposed to do is
Right.
subsidizing the other 10 bags. You produce your trash, you take care of your trash. We teach people, you bring trash into a park, you carry that trash back out. We can't absolve people of the responsibility of having to take the care of the refuse that they create.
But we're paying taxes at the end of the day for
Of
this.
course we do. We all
Those
pay
bags-
taxes. But those bags aren't based on our taxes. That whole trash program should pay for itself. And there are a lot of people in this city that pay for private haulers to come and pick up their trash.
I mean, like, I do.
I do. It's $30 a month. Share it with a neighbor, it's $15 a month. We each get one barrel at the end of the driveway. I mean, there are other ways to make this happen, but we can't just absolve people of the responsibility. There's a lot of people that won't recycle and just fill up purple trash bags. That's on them.
Then they can pay for it.
But that's it. They're supposed to pay for it.
So I think that, reduce, reuse, recycle is a piece of this that's important. But I also think we have to recognize that this is a hardship for many low-income people. And so we should look at how we can help.
Tom?
As I remember in the budget this year, the purple bags are paying for themselves. They pay for the trash service in the city. A whole lot of people have the misconception that we are paying for trash with our taxes. It's a user fee.
Yep.
I hear more complaints about these purple bags than I do hear about people using the interstate. You'll gladly pay the toll to go down the interstate, or you can go down 295.
But you go down the interstate only if you have a car. So the purple bag is affecting everybody. Either you got a car or you don't.
But it's still a user fee.
Still,
And
it's
to
people
be
that can
fair, you
afford
do
it.
have to buy a bag.
Yeah.
It won't necessarily cost $1. But
I think the bags
you
are
know.
silly. I think we should have some sort of sticker or some other way, because you're just putting 2 or 3 bags into one plastic bag and just adding more plastic to the landfill. It never made sense to me.
Well, that's not what we do. We just put our trash from the can and the garbage in the kitchen right into the purple bag. You don't have to chuck bags inside of bags.
Right.
Those bags rip way too easily for me to trust anything going in them directly. Anyone else? All right.
So did we come up with any conclusion about so he's gonna look into it?
He's got to give
Okay.
us more info.
Alrighty.
I do think we should consider how we can help out folks in the trailer park, because they're in a tight spot. It's private property, and they are paying rent on the land, but they're also paying taxes on their unit. And so they should have the same benefits that other residents have who don't have their trash provided for them by their landlord.
why aren't we making trailer parks take care of the trash for their tenants like we do any apartment building with 4 or more units?
That is what we do.
So how are they then turning it over to their residents?
Well, don't the landlords in apartment buildings?
We don't allow landlords to charge their residents for the dumpster that they provide.
Oh, yes, they
How do we know it's not in the rent?
Yeah, they added into the rent.
We don't know it's not in the rent.
Well, they don't charge them a separate fee for it. It may be included in their rent, and if it was included in their park dues, that'd be a different story. But it's not being included in their park dues. They're charging them that extra. And we require landlords with 4 or more units to provide a dumpster. Whether you put that into the rent, great, but you don't have, your rent is $750 plus $20 for trash. You may have rent of $770, but it's not split between the two. There's no extra line item for your trash when you live in a 4-unit building.
That's splitting hairs, isn't it?
No. I mean, put it in their, it should be part of their lot rent. They shouldn't have to be paying an additional fee for their trash. It should be part of their lot rent.
I'm not familiar with our ordinance, but it would surprise me if it says that the landlords can't charge separately for trash.
What do you think, Patty? Is it in there?
I don't believe it is, no. I would say that this solid waste discussion needs to take place on a larger scale. And I know that there's a lot of history that goes back with the purple trash bags when they were implemented, phasing that in, removing trash cans from the downtown. We provided free bags through general assistance for a while. You know, the whole trash issue is a big component. So it's not something that's going to be solved during a 10-minute discussion, at the end of a council meeting. But there was a solid waste committee that we used to convene. It's probably time to consider that again and talk about it on a larger scale because, there are so many moving parts. We adjusted the ordinances to remove, these commercial entities like 4 units and up were considered commercial entities that they could provide their trash separately. And then we had, the mobile home parks that had, a mountain of trash at the end of the yard. And we said, well, that's a commercial entity as well because they're charging rent for the lot. So we ended up removing that from the ordinance. So it's been, kind of a moving process over time. So the discussion should take place to look at it as a whole, and you can't piecemeal, sections.
So I'm requesting that we have that conversation.
I'll second that too.
And we'll just call it a pilot program and say that it hasn't worked on the other side of the concourse. It's time to put some more trash barrels back out there. It just doesn't make sense.
And also too, it's a public safety to have like needles and trash and all those stuff over there. It's a public safety, especially with kids in that concourse. Like, I go to the store with my kids.
I take mine too, to the store.
Mm-hmm.
But I still think that people should be responsible for their trash. It is what it is.
Look for the barrels. We'll start a pilot program.
Good.
Thank you.
See, we get barrels. Anyone else? I'm gonna end the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.